All right, so here we have a 2014 Chrysler Town & Country. We're going to be doing valve cover gaskets. The rear valve cover gasket is leaking really bad. While we're in there, we're also going to throw some spark plugs in because we have to pull the intake off to get to those. All right, so we'll start off by removing our cover. We just want to pull it straight up. I'm going to remove our air intake tube and our top of our filter housing. So we just got a couple clips. All right, let's go ahead and just pop that off. A little electrical connector here for our air ambient temperature. All right, so now we want to go ahead and get our intake off. So we have a bracket back here we need to remove. There's a 10 millimeter, should be here. We just found it floating around. Someone's obviously been into this before, so we'll go ahead and take this back one off. We'll move some of our wires out of the way. We need to get underneath this bolt. There's another stud we need to get to. Let's see. Okay, so we want to remove this stud here. It is I'm going to use a 13 millimeter. It could be a half or a 13. I have a deep well socket. Okay, so we'll go ahead and remove some of our electrical connections. Okay, we'll go ahead and lay this off to the side. Go ahead and take our vacuum lines off, kind of just push them back a little bit. All right, so when I have a hose that I can't get off, what I do is just use a pair of pliers and twist it. You can hear it break free. Just keep on removing some hoses. Hold down for our radiator hose. We'll go ahead and pop that out. Okay, so we should have two little 10 millimeter bolts in this bracket. You can kind of see they're not even lined up to the bracket, and the bolts are missing there, so we'll have to address that once we put it back together. All right, so now we want to remove, we have a bunch of bolts right around the center of the intake. All right, so they are 8 millimeter. All right, we'll just go ahead and lift it up, see if we got anything else connected. Oh, all right. All right, so we got a little insulating cover. We'll go ahead and remove that. We got a lot of dust and everything. We should probably blow all this stuff off before we start breaking into the motor. All right, just to keep us safe from getting debris in the motor, I'm just going to go ahead and Put some paper towels in our intake. All right, so we're going to go ahead and remove our coils. All right, so we have 6 of them. We have a 10 millimeter bolt and a connector. So we'll go ahead and remove our 10 millimeter bolts. All right, so we want to go ahead and get all of our hold downs off of our valve cover. All right, so under here we have our cam sensors. All right, so we need to first remove our connectors. All right, so it looks like we have 3 Torx. All right, so we're going to start with our rear one first. We have 3 T25 bolts holding it in. All right, so we had our 3 little Torx around the outside, and then I just had to wiggle it to get it out of position. All right, so what we want to do with these is they need to go back in the exact same spot, and there's 4 of them. 2 in the front cylinder head, or 2 in the back cylinder head, and 2 in the front. So you can label them however you want, as long as you know how you label them. I'm going to label them 1, 2, 3, and 4, so this will be a number 4. We'll go ahead and put number 4 on it. All right, so that way I know he's number 4. All right, so now we'll go ahead and remove the next one. All right, so we're going to do the same thing to the front cylinder head. We've already pulled our cover off. We'll go ahead and take our connections loose. All right, same thing. We'll go ahead and remove those 3 bolts. All right, so we have some other cam sensors here. We're going to go ahead and remove this one and the one in the back. All right, so these are also Torx. I believe they're going to be a T30. I'm using a T27 and it's a little loose, so I just can't find a T30 in the toolbox. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these bolts now. Okay, so we've got a little lock. We're going to remove our connector. So next thing we need to do is remove our PCV valve, which is in the back here. So we'll take our tube off first. All right, so our PCV is held on by a T25 Torx. All right, so we have, looks like we have two. All right, so we'll go ahead and remove those. Okay, so we just want to kind of pop our harness off the back here. So we just got little push pins or little hold downs. Just want to kind of yank it up. Another one right here in the center. All right, so you can see that's what we were. All right, so these are our hold downs. There's 3 of them in the back. We got to pop those off. So you just got to yank them up. Same way with the front. We need to take, this is our injector wiring harness. We just need to pop it off the valve cover. So we're just going to kind of push everything inward. We're not going to try to disconnect our fuel injectors. We're going to leave those alone. All right, so now we need to take off these 2 studs back here where our hold down was. That's part of our valve cover bolts. As they go around, these ones are plastic. We'll take those ones off first. All right, so we'll go ahead and remove these. This is an 11mm socket for these studs. All right, so now we want to go ahead and remove all of our bolts. Those were just caps to bolts. So they weren't actually, didn't actually hold anything down. All right, so these are going to be 8mm. Looks like we're going to need a deep well 8 for all the back ones. Oh, yep, at least 3 of the back ones. All right, so we'll go ahead and start knocking these off. All right, that should be all of our bolts. Just run our hand around just to make sure. All right, so we should just be able to wiggle it up. All right, so we think we got it. I think we're just hitting where the PCV is, so I think we just have to come up and somehow slide it. So I was trying to get this side to lift higher.
Difficult.
All right, so she's tucked in there pretty good. You basically have to pull this top piece up first and then slide it past the end of this snout here that was for our PCV. All right, so we'll go ahead and do the front one now. So kind of the same process. We're going to go ahead and take all of our perimeter bolts down. All right, so now we got our valve cover loose. We'll go ahead and pull it up. Okay, so now we have our valve covers. We got a valve cover gasket set from Auto Parts Direct Use, so we're going to go ahead and replace all of our gaskets. All right, so we'll go ahead and set our front side in. And that all of our spark plug tubes came through our holes right. All right, so just go ahead and get our bolts started. All right, so now that we have our valve covers on, we'll go ahead and start putting all of our wiring back into its little hold downs. And so we'll just work our way around and get everything fitted back on. All right, so now we're ready to put our cam position sensors back in. All right, and our sensor plug with our lock. All right, now we'll go ahead and do the rear one. All right, so before we go ahead and plug that in, we'll go ahead and put our PCV in. All right, so here we have a new PCV that we got from Auto Parts Direct U. We'll go ahead and put it in its location. We have 2 mounting bolts. All right, so now we can make our electrical connection for our sensor onto our hold down. All right, so now we're ready to install our variable valve timing solenoids to the front of our valve cover. All right, so we have them marked. So this was number 4. So we'll just go ahead and start putting them back into place. All right, we'll go ahead and tighten up all of our bolts. All right, so we'll go ahead and make our electrical connections. All right, so now we're ready to install our rear sensors. I have a 5/8 spark plug socket. All right, so we'll go ahead and remove all of our plugs. All right, so here we got some plugs from Auto Parts Direct U. Let's see, these are Denso. Champion is original. Denso also is a pretty good plug, so we're going to put the Denzos in. All right, so we just want to make sure we got the same plug, same reach, all that good stuff. We'll go ahead and get our new plugs out of the box and ready to go in. All right, so we're ready to install our new plugs now. All right, so now that we have our spark plugs in, we'll go ahead and put our coils back on. Goes like that, right? Yeah. Yep. All right, so we're ready to put our intake on. We'll go ahead and, I got some new gaskets from Auto Parts Direct U. We'll go ahead and put those on. All right, so now we're ready to put our intake on. All right, so now we need to put our bracket back on. All right, go ahead and put our hold down back on, our wire hold down. All of our clips and connectors. Our two studs. This is for our cover that goes on, so let's go back on the back here, on the back of our valve cover. All right, this is our PCV. I think we'll kind of route it through. And now we're ready for our air box and our intake snorkel. All right, and those two studs in the back that we just put on the valve cover, that's where this box snaps into. All right, we have our connector for our ambient air temperature, our breather, fasten our air box back. We did forget two vacuum lines, all right, so we have one here and then the other one for our brake booster. All right, our last thing will be this cover. All right, so now we got it all back together from our valve covers. We'll go ahead and start the car up and we'll put it up in the air, just make sure that we don't have any leaks and everything is good, and then we're ready to go.